Today's video is on a topic that I think a lot of you guys out there who are like me and enjoy window shopping and real shopping will find very, very useful. And that's because today I am talking about my top 10 tips on how to save money when buying luxury. Now, I know that luxury and saving money may seem a little bit paradoxical, may seem like an impossible task here, but hear me out, because the majority, if not all recently, of my luxury items that I've bought are discounted in some sort of way. And I'm by no means, if you're from the UK, someone like Martin Lewis, okay? I'm by no means like a money-saving expert. I'm just somebody who has done a lot of research over the years that I've been buying luxury and non-luxury items. I think a lot of these tips may actually be applicable to everyday life, but I like to think of myself as someone who's quite financially savvy, or at least a cheapskate. These are tips that I use every day, and they're always in the back of my mind. I don't think these will really change that much in the years to come. I like to make my money work as far as it can, as much as it can. And as somebody who is both a creator and consumer of luxury fashion content, I think it's really important to be upfront and honest about pricing or collaborations, gifting, that kind of thing. I am also not in any way sponsored or anything to make a video like this, which honestly I've noticed when I've seen other creators make videos like today's video is usually sponsored, and no shade by the way. Basically, I think these are tips that not every influencer will tell you guys, but I'm gonna tell you because we have no secrets here, okay? And we could all do with saving as much money as possible. And I think especially in today's climate, and I hope that by sharing with you the tips that I use today, some of which you may know, some of which you may not know, that you guys can make an informed decision whenever you come across any kind of promotions or events. I'm going to get into these 10 tips in just a minute. Before I do, I think it's important just to level set in terms of the context around which I use these tips personally. So the way I see it, I think there are 3 different types of luxury buying platforms or stores. So the first is basically the direct designer. So for example, just pulling names out of the air, Gucci, Prada, you know, the actual designers themselves that you're buying from their website or their stores. The second one is luxury platforms like Net-a-Porter, Louisa Viaroma, Harrods, basically storefronts that stock multiple brands underneath them, and again, website or in store. And then the third is one that I don't really admittedly shop that much from, but I always keep an eye out and have a look. But those are secondhand sellers or luxury resellers. So that could be things like Vestiaire or even places like eBay. Now, the reason why I mentioned these 3 different types of storefronts is because I think the majority of my tips that I'm going to share with you are probably more applicable to numbers 1 and 2. So buying direct from the designer or buying from some storefront that actually stocks multiple designers. That's not to say that places like Vestiaire don't have these kind of money-saving tips as well, but I think because I've been buying mostly from numbers 1 and 2, you can probably imagine that a lot of them will stay true. So let's get started with tip number 1. And I think number 1 is going to be of no surprise to many of you out there, and that's because it is discount codes. Promo codes to save money. I think everybody can agree we all love a good discount code, because why pay more for something when you could exercise minimal effort, do a little bit of searching on the interwebs, and find a nice 10% off, 15% off coupon code, all right? I am somebody who does this all the time. I am constantly on the internet, scouring the web for a good discount code. And discount codes come in so many different shapes and sizes. Let me just rattle off a few types of discount codes that you could potentially get. Now, I'm sure for many of you guys out there, you are no stranger to the welcome discount codes that you get upon sign up. But as a bit of an example, a recent example actually, let me pull out my recent purchase of a Fendi puffer jacket. I recently bought this puffer jacket on a site called Ukes, and they had a welcome 10% coupon just by purely signing up to their marketing newsletters. If you know a little bit about marketing, you'll realize that this trade-off of a discount code and essentially your data is one that is quite worthwhile to the brand, to the store, because as you'll know, data is very valuable these days. You may also be a future customer that they could target with future marketing. Other examples include things like your birthday discount codes or student discounts, even key worker discounts. And if you know somebody within those last two categories, definitely leverage their discount, because why not? Now, aside from those examples, you may also find you get discount codes magically appear on your screen while you're browsing on a website, or even in your inbox if you've provided your email addresses to the companies, for things such as cart abandonment, or even just being like browsing on a website and a screen will pop up saying, hey, you've been looking for a while, how about this discount code? Because like I mentioned earlier with the data that companies want to market to you, companies are also using things like cookies and I guess trackers in general when you're browsing on a website or an app to see kind of how long you're lingering on a page, and things like cart abandonment and lingering on a website for a long amount of time without actually converting to an actual purchase trigger a lot of websites to send you basically lots of coupon codes. I feel like the biggest retailer that this brings to mind as being very, very true is Louisa Via Roma. I find that when I'm idle on there for a little bit of time, something will pop up saying, quick, there's a discount code for like 30% off for the next half an hour or the next hour, buy, buy, buy. It creates a sense of, not necessarily panic, but it nudges you to convert your purchase. Although it's usually applicable on certain designers and it's usually on full price items, it's just one thing to consider. Sometimes these retailers may actually decide to discount on designers that may be excluded from another platform. Not all retailers will have these sorts of promotions, but it never hurts to really just have a look. Tip number 2 now, and this is one that I haven't seen any content creators talk about ever. This is no exaggeration. I have an inkling as to why that might be, so I'll talk about that in a bit. But this one, I hope, is not a secret, but it's something that is applicable not just to the luxury items that you buy, but even everyday purchases. And I personally use this every time that I want to buy something, really. I check this first, and that is cashback websites. I honestly cannot stress enough how important it is to check and use cashback websites where possible. And this is something that I discovered a few years ago. I have mentioned it off the cuff in some of my videos, but because this is a dedicated money-saving video, I think this had to be in my top tips. And for those of you out there who aren't that familiar with cashback websites, think of it essentially as like affiliate links. You essentially shop through a different platform. So in the UK, the 2 big ones that I recommend are Top Cashback, which is the one I use the most, and Quidco. And what essentially happens is you go through their website, you click on the retailer that you want to shop at, they'll give you the selections of cashback that you can get when you buy something, and it opens in a new browser page, usually the luxury retailer, so let's say Louisa Via Roma. It opens that tab for you and you just shop as normal, but because you opened that page via the cashback website, that means that that website recommended you and influenced that purchase, and therefore you will get money rewarded back to you, because essentially they get a bit of money, I think, from the store that you just bought at, because they're like, hey, you've just referred us to somebody, that's really good, here's some money, here's a cut of the sales. But then you also get rewarded, because that's the incentive really of why you'd go through Top Cashback or Quidco as opposed to buying just without them, right? Like, you're almost getting paid for the privilege of shopping despite wanting to shop anyway. You know what I mean? Now, usually what I do is I already have a browser page open. If I'm really wanting to convert my window shopping into actual shopping, I will already go ahead and put everything in my cart. and then afterwards I will exit that page and I will go and access it from the cashback website, so that everything is already saved in the basket, so I just check out straight away and there's no issues in getting my cashback paid out later down the line. Now, cashback websites, they take a bit of time to get your reward back. It's not like a promo code where you see the money come off instantaneously. The cashback websites, I will warn you now, take a couple of months. No joke, sometimes even more. Depends, because they have to track your purchase was legitimate. They have to track that you didn't return something, for example. They've got to track other things, like if you're using competing coupon codes and things like that. Sometimes it doesn't always work. So that's one thing to be aware of. But actually, I find these cashback websites are very transparent in saying what you can do in terms of getting that cashback accepted and tracked. And if there are promo codes that they will let you use or won't let you use, they usually make that known. So that is a big tip that I would recommend to all of you guys out there who haven't used it before. Definitely try it out, because I've saved literally thousands on purchases, luxury and otherwise, because you can even get your internet broadband there, you can get your energy bills on there. So that's just a bit about cashback websites. Now, if you remember a little bit earlier, I mentioned that this is a tip that not many content creators, if any content creators, have talked about before on their platforms. And the reason why I say this is because the way that I've just explained to you what a cashback website does, it's kind of like an affiliate link. And as you'll probably have gathered, if you watch a lot of luxury or just fashion content creators in general, you'll know that they probably, 99% of them probably use affiliate links, which is almost the same concept as a cashback website, except instead of the, referral bonus coming back to you in a small cut, it goes straight to the influencer. The reason that I mention it is because, in today's world, it's hard on these streets, okay? And you want to make sure that you are saving as much money as you can. I personally, I'm going to be totally transparent, I do not use these affiliate links because I actually realize that I can save a lot more on using other cashback websites or promo codes and things like that. And usually the affiliate link nullifies these things. And I will find other ways to support the creators that I watch. And even when it comes to my own case, I don't personally use or give out affiliate links when I link stuff in my description. Again, this is each to their own. I'm not judging anybody who uses it. I personally am also quite lazy, as a side note, to be able to go and, put that amount of effort into creating these links individually. But I want to make this channel as transparent as possible, and I haven't used affiliate links. But, even in the future, if I do recommend some sort of affiliate link or discount code, I like to still think that I've given you guys the information to understand why it is that people use these codes. It is a source of income, a small but albeit still a source of income for many content creators out there. And I guess then it's an active choice then, after hearing most of this video, for you to go and support that creator. So yeah, hopefully this all makes sense in the context of cashback sites, because you can't use both. You can't track via an affiliate link but also want to get cash back. It doesn't work like that. You kind of have to go one or the other. And I personally, because I want to save as much money as possible, your girl's a cheapskate, I use cashback websites, but each to their own. And I think it's just good, the more you know, basically. And knowledge is power. So tip number 3 then, and this is one of my favorite tips of all time, and you guys who have been watching me for a long time, you'll know how much I love this tip, and that is tax-free shopping. Now, this is a little bit tricky given today's COVID world. I appreciate that. However, I think, as things slowly ease up, I remain in blind faith that this will be the case in the imminent future. But this is one just to think about if you plan a holiday or if you are going somewhere, whether it be on a holiday or with business. I know a lot of you guys out there will work and have to go abroad, or maybe you have family that will be going abroad at some point. Then you can kind of leverage that opportunity there. But tax-free shopping, I think, will be mostly applicable, I guess, on the higher tier designer brands that you can't really get from places like Louis V. Roma, you know, those kind of multi-brand retailers that I mentioned at the beginning. These are designers probably like Chanel, Hermes, Louis Vuitton. They don't really usually stock on websites like Net-a-Porter and stuff like that, maybe because of their reputation, I think, as well, and accessibility reasons. They want to keep that quite limited. So as a result, tax-free shopping is probably the next best way for many of you guys out there to save money on these higher tier premium designer brands. I do have a bit of eye candy just to switch things up a bit and keep it visually entertaining, I guess. And as one of my examples of a fantastic tax-free purchase, I have brought here to show you guys my Chanel Coco handle. So this Coco handle was my last purchase that I made tax-free, and I bought this actually late 2019 if I'm not mistaken, so yeah, it's been some time. And for reference, at the time that I bought this, the retail price was $3,150, and then I managed to get it tax-free at about $2,700, something like that. So a big saving. This is an example of bags or other items actually that you can find at airports, or even if you go to a foreign country and just get a tax rebate at the airport, or sometimes they do it straight in store depending on the country and the service that they use. This is just a good example of a way that you can get discounts instantaneously almost. I find that you can also get other kinds of benefits like building relationships with SAs, or potentially even getting some sorts of reward discounts. If you're buying, for example, at Heathrow, I got Heathrow rewards on top of it. So obviously each bag is like almost £3,000. So that is a lot of rewards points that you can then convert to something else. I often find actually, if you're going to the country that the designer fashion house originates from, I usually find that they are cheaper. It's cheaper to buy the items there than it is in a foreign country. So for example, I imagine buying Chanel in France in the euro will be cheaper than buying it here in the UK, especially now that you get a bit of tax rebate. So it may actually work out cheaper to book a holiday there, or if I'm already there for some other reason, to leverage that opportunity. And even if I'm not there for any kind of reason, if I want to go for a city break, maybe the price differentials will kind of even itself out, even if I buy a train ticket or something. Tip number 4 now, and this one is potentially not one that's everybody's cup of tea, but I thought I'd mention it anyway because it's a tip that I've used quite recently and I've noticed it's gotten really good, so I'm going to keep it going and be responsible, and that is credit card incentives. Now, disclaimer alert, I always do this before I talk about credit cards. Use your own judgment, exercise caution with credit cards, know the benefits and know the risks as well. Make sure that you can afford everything, blah, 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 blah. So with that said, I have an American Express. I love my American Express. I find Amex to be the best in terms of benefits that it yields back to you. So what I mean by that is, as a Amex holder, I get access to an offers tab within the app or on the website. I'm sure that you can find it if you're an Amex customer. And they recently have done this thing where you get cash back for basically using your Amex card to purchase things from certain websites or stores. So let me give you an example of how I've personally used an Amex offer. And I'm going to do that by sharing with you how I bought my beloved Saint Laurent Lulu bag. And I think this bag is a particularly good example because I will also talk about other offers that I stacked on top, which is kind of the tips that I gave before talking about this Amex offer one. So follow my train of thought here. So what I did was I went on Farfetch. I realized they had the bag that I wanted. They even also had a promo code, which I was going to try out. And that was for 10%. I added this bag to the cart. I'd made sure the promo code was working and I added that too. I then closed the browser and then I went to Top Cashback. This is an operation. Opened the Farfetch browser that it created. I then went to basket. I had checked out and used my American Express to pay. What it then did was trigger a few things. So number one, obviously, it triggered the promo code that I applied on it. So 10% got knocked off this base price. What I also had was an Amex offer that said something to the effect of spend, I think like £500 or £600, get £50 back. So I got £50 extra back. And then on top of that, I'm not sure if it tracked fully, I'll have to check, but obviously, because I then did everything via top cashback, I think I got maybe like 3% back on top of that. So hopefully this example adds a bit more of like a flavor of, you know, the actual thought process and how I buy things and how you can stack multiple offers on top and how the Amex offer in particular also helps. We are on to tip number 5 now, halfway there. And this tip is, I want to say like a medium to long-term play in comparison to the tips that I've already mentioned. And that's because it's about learning and knowing sales cycles. So what I mean by that is 2 things. Number 1, learning typical sales cycles of retailers, knowing when stuff usually goes on sale. So as an example, let's say you want to buy a winter coat. If you want to buy it discounted, you probably wouldn't buy it in winter because that's when these things sell the most because people need them. Same goes for things like bikinis. If you were to buy them in summer or just before summer, they're probably going to be more expensive / not discounted at all because you're buying them during a time where there's a lot of demand. Conversely then, if you wanted to buy those 2 types of items, if you were to buy a winter coat in the heat of summer during a summer sale, you'd probably get a better deal because it's not the item that people want at the time. Similarly then, for the other example of buying a bikini, if you were to buy a bikini in the winter sale, you'd probably also get a better deal because no one's thinking about bikinis in winter unless you live in somewhere like Jamaica or Singapore where it's hot all the time. Maybe you're an anomaly there, but know the sales cycles in your geography. Be aware of the types of sales also that go on in the year that kind of map themselves to these seasonal cycles. I've observed that there are usually 4 big sales that happen throughout the year, and those sales are, if we go in chronological order throughout the year, January to December, they're usually the January sale, so it's usually New Year sales. They want to shift all of the winter stock, get ready for summer. This is why the seasonality element is very, very useful. You've got the January sale, then you've got the summer sale, and that's usually July, August time when they want to shift all of their summer stock and get prepared for autumn, winter. Then you've basically got a lull for a few months until you hit November where you've got the Black Friday sale, and that's basically a holiday that I find is influenced a lot by the US. It's quite a new phenomenon actually, but still a big sale nonetheless. And then of course you've got the post-Christmas Boxing Day sales. So those are the big 4 events that I find throughout the year. And I've noticed actually under COVID, mid-season sales and just random sales from different retailers are a lot more common these days, I guess just as a way to differentiate and get out of that kind of congested and saturated sales cycle. But I usually find that being aware of the seasonal sales cycles is quite helpful in determining when you want to buy something or when it's most likely that you'll get something on discount, especially if what you're buying is a seasonal item. Now, category number 2 then, it goes one level further, one level down, and that is about learning the sales cycle for your particular retailer that you're interested in. So an example that springs to mind immediately is Louisa Via Roma. Now, for those of you guys who are familiar with Louisa Via Roma, you'll know that they do discounts all year round pretty much, and it seems almost random that you'll see something pop up on the screen or you'll get a newsletter. But what I've noticed is that during the summer sale, so like I mentioned in category 1, you kind of learn roughly when things go on sale or get more discount. I've noticed that they have incremental increases in their coupon codes, and they're a retailer that's quite unique in this respect because they have coupon codes, not like the 10 or 15% that other retailers have. Is they have usually like a 25% or even sometimes a 30% year round, but during summer or like maybe August time, just when it's about to end, they sometimes go to 40% off. And obviously there are T&Cs around this. It won't be on certain full price or starred items. It will be on more seasonal things, but I've noticed as a specific retailer, just looking out for their patterns and when they usually have peaks and troughs in their coupons is something that may end up being quite useful for you. And I know lots of people like to use platforms to monitor this, like ShopTagger. And this is, can I just say, this video is one of the few videos that you'll probably find that is not sponsored by a ShopTagger or a similar website. I have personally used ShopTagger before. I use it just because people keep talking about it, and I do find it's quite useful, but sometimes the notifications don't always come through. I often find that I just bookmark certain sites and items and just kind of keep monitoring them. But that's one way that you can kind of keep an eye on these discount codes and how much they fluctuate throughout the year. Tip number 6 now, and this is one that should come of no surprise given the tips that have come before, and that is using reward programs. So retailers that immediately come to mind are literally, just as I was talking about it, Louisa V Aroma, Harrods. I find that they usually have a lot of enticing perks that come with shopping on their particular platform, not just a coupon code, not just a cashback or something like that. They'll usually have perks that hopefully will differentiate them from their competition, and so they will offer things like converting points to cash, or private access to certain sales, or early access to other sales. So those are kind of perks that I guess are intangible in terms of their monetary value, but they can be very helpful if you want to get certain limited edition or very hard to find items, or even, you know, just actually getting stuff converted into cash later down the line, and you can then potentially stack all of your discount codes and vouchers. And you'll probably also get things like preferential treatment. Customer service will probably prioritize you. You'll probably also get access to not just private sales, but also perks like VIP experiences, or like in the case of Louisa V Aroma, they have a sneaker club, and they have, you know, draws for holidays and other perks. This is one that won't necessarily yield an immediate return when you want to buy something, but I find that building that relationship or building custom and, you know, that kind of sales history form, and you'll usually get rewarded for it in some kind of way, whether that be in cash or kind. So that's just one thing to mention. I've found personal success with both Louisa V Aroma and Harrods. Love buying from there. They also are the gateway to loads of other designers. So I will usually find myself going to Louisa V Aroma for mid-tier designer brands or more seasonal items on there, and then I will go to Harrods for less accessible brands or items like Chanel's, etc. Tip number 7 now, and it is a little bit of a cheeky one. So exercise restraint, or, you know, at your own discretion, but it's one that I think is worthwhile mentioning, and that is just being a new customer. And I think it's a sad truism of life, but it's one that people, I guess, may have realised in their everyday lives, and that's just by being a new customer yields benefits, and often companies treat new customers better than existing ones. I find that by shopping around, companies, especially competitor companies to the one that you're already shopping at, will invest so much in giving you enticing promo codes or other certain maybe like referral codes and things like that to want you to come and shop at their store. And so often by creating a new account, or, you know, maybe using a different email address, you will probably get some sort of reward for that little bit of effort. Now, obviously, don't commit things like some sort of identity fraud, though I do think a lot of these places, they're not very secure in the sense that, like, you can just realistically create a new email address and that's totally fine. But I've always found that a lot of coupon codes are like for new customers only, and they haven't really said if I have to be a different person or not. You just have to have a different account. So yeah, I've used this one sparingly because I often find there are other better coupon codes out there that don't restrict themselves to, you know, being a new customer. Because it's also admin, isn't it? That you've got to create a new email address or add a new account or something like that. I can't be bothered. I'm a little bit lazy on that front. But certainly if you've got family members who, you know, don't really buy from that platform, you can just get them to buy it for you, or you can maybe refer them and both of you get a discount, because refer a friend schemes are also really, really big. I find that just getting a new customer to come onto a retailer's store is always something that people are trying to push. So take advantage of it and be a new customer and always shop around. And that's just something that you should be doing in life anyway, but you get no rewards for loyalties really, unless you've got a great reward scheme. Like I mentioned earlier, obviously you want to exercise a bit of rationality around that and make an informed decision and everything, but I often find being a new customer can be quite profitable in the long term. Now we are on to tip number 8. We are almost there at the end of the video, and this is also a tip that I don't really see many people talking about, and it might not be always that effective, but definitely have this in the back of your mind when you want to buy an item online. I think it's mostly an online thing as opposed to in store. And that is about reporting faulty or damaged items. Now, this is one that some of you guys out there will be like, Mel, that's a bit rogue, isn't it? Like, I don't want a damaged item, or what benefit could that possibly give you? But what I found in life, and it has happened on a few occasions actually in terms of luxury, is that if you've ordered something online, or sometimes you'll get away with it in store, but I think it's mostly an online thing because of like quality assurance. If you receive something that's not up to scratch, retailers actually have to acknowledge when something is damaged, and if you're not happy with a service or the quality of an item, instead of sending it back, if the damage is minimal enough that you can fix it or even live with it, so maybe it's if you've pulled threads on clothing, or it's a bit of scuffing on some shoes or something, or if it's shown clear signs of wear and it's sold as new, then what you can always offer the retailer is say that you will keep the item, but that you'd like a discount or some sort of compensation. And usually most retailers will honor this. So as an example, I've brought my Balmain utility skirt here to show you and talk about. So this particular skirt is one that I bought on My Teresa several years ago, and I actually bought this in the My Teresa sale, and I think it was like £200 or £300 in terms of the sale price, because it was like RRP like £500 or £600. So, you know, a reasonable price, I think, for Balmain, reduced. So when the skirt came to me, what I basically noticed when I wore it is that the back zipper had some sort of like one of the, I don't know what you call these, the teeth missing, or it wasn't created like properly, it wasn't completely together. What ended up happening was every time I'd sit down, the whole zip would open. And these types of zips, you'll know if this has happened to you before, all of the teeth have to be together, or else if there's a little gap, it will just all come out. And it was very, very embarrassing. Thankfully, I'd worn shorts underneath each time, so it wasn't super revealing or anything like that, but it was obviously annoying, and it's obviously not what I paid for, and I don't really want a wardrobe malfunction every time I sit down. Now, although this seems like a very, very big wardrobe malfunction, and it's something that maybe on the face of it seems quite bad, I realized immediately actually that what you could do is just sew a little bit of thread just at the bottom to close that gap up, and then the zip just goes up and down fine, and there's no gap or anything. Now, before I did that, obviously I emailed My Teresa first. Essentially, they came back to me and said, you know, sorry about the quality. This is the last item in stock. We'd be happy for you to keep it, but would you accept a 20% off or something like that? I think it was 20% off. So they gave me like 60 quid back for something that just took a couple of stitches here. And I will just zoom in real quick. So we're just talking about couple of stitches just right here, and it's unnoticeable, and it was less than 3 minutes of work to stitch it back and forth. But then I saved 60 quid from doing that, and no one's just gonna give you 60 quid, right? You save not only the hassle and a bit of money of then, you know, returning the item back to the retailer, you also help the retailer because they would probably have to clean the item, or they would have to do the admin of finding the item and doing all the refund exchanges and everything like that. But also they might have to chuck the item because it's faulty. And so that's also not great from a sustainability point of view. So you're actually helping in multiple respects, and obviously you win the most, right? We are now on to tip number 9. We are almost there. And this one is one of those medium to longer term plays again, and that is relationship building. And what I mean by relationship building is creating worthwhile and long-term relationships with sales associates or certain stores. So a good example of this might be, you know, sales associates with Chanel or Hermes, you know, all of those very sought after designers. I know that certain retailers will have private sales or early access to sales, or will prioritize certain customers to get access to certain items, or even have other perks like events. Because actually, if you want to avoid buying stuff on the reseller market, if all the tips that I've mentioned don't work for you and you're looking for something very limited edition or rare, if you've invested the time in building a good relationship with certain sales associates from these brands that you want to buy from, you'll probably get access to the items that you want. And I feel like this particular tip definitely requires a lot more effort and time and patience to do, because you are building a relationship with somebody. But I think it's something that will pay dividends in the future when you are looking for something rare or sold out. I will bring out my Chanel scarf that I bought quite recently from the Chanel sale. And I use this particular example because I've built such a good relationship with my sales associate there at Chanel that he sent me all of the items that were on sale, and in the past he's even held things for me aside, not just stuff in the sale as well, just other bags that I've looked at with him. So it always really pays to build a good trusting relationship with somebody that you get on with a lot and that you have a history with, because they'll probably always think of you in the back of their minds. So now we are on to tip number 10, the final one to close out this video, and this one is a little bit less obvious, but it's one that may end up being more economical for you in the future, and that is considering the location of an item and the returns policy. So it's potentially useful if you're looking for items that are hard to find in your home country. As an example, I'm going to bring back out my Fendi puffer jacket. Obviously, I talked about this jacket a little bit earlier on, so I mentioned that I bought it on Yoox, but what I didn't mention was that Yoox is based in Italy. And as we all know, because of Brexit, you know, we're not in the EU anymore in the UK, right? And Italy is. So what that meant is that I had to pay duties and taxes on top of the retailing price of the item, which I think would put a lot of people off, and it certainly staggered me a little bit. If it wasn't for that 10% off coupon code, that would have been a bad taste in my mouth. But I also balanced that against the fact that I couldn't find this item anywhere else. The price of the item was, you know, worthwhile enough. It was discounted enough for me to decide actually it's fine to pay those duties and taxes. But then the second part of my considerations and the second part of this particular tip is checking out the returns policy. So returns back to Italy would have been quite disastrous, going along the same thought process as paying, you know, like the duties and taxes to send it back. And I think even when I'd get it refunded, the balance of this jacket would only be like a certain percentage, because they would potentially take the duties and taxes out of the price that I paid for the jacket. I was pretty confident that the jacket would work for me, and I was therefore happy to pay the additional duties and taxes. But in many other cases, though, if you're looking for a particular item, that's something you might want to consider. Is it worthwhile for me to buy it in another country because of the duties and taxes levied on it? Or maybe even with those added up, it's still cheaper than buying an item in the UK, for example. And also you want to consider things related to that, like the shipping, or potentially, you know, if you can buy more than one size and the returns policy is pretty good, maybe consider doing that so that you don't have to pay shipping multiple times over. I can think of Farfetch as an example where they always charge you a one-off shipping fee, so make sure that you know what items that you want up front and maybe try and combine shipping. So we are finally at the end of this video. My goodness, this took a long time to film and there is a lot of information here, so hopefully you guys found that useful. And if you've also got additional tips that maybe I haven't mentioned or other things that you want to add on top, please leave it in the comments section below. Let's all save money together. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in my next one.